I used to watch Unity tutorials for hours and then just forget everything the next day. When I learned the actual reason why our brain does that, everything changed for me. If you stay with me, you'll stop forgetting code today and you'll start learning like a real developer. So there is a concept that's going to be critical if you actually want to learn the most effective way or even learn at all. And that's going to be this difference in learning between passive learning and active learning. So in learning, there are these two types, passive and active learning, and these are two completely different things. Passive learning, that's going to be where you're passively watching someone or you're just consuming. Whilst active learning, that's where you're doing something that's like preferably has a desirable difficulty, something that's not too hard but also not too easy, and you're actually learning by actually doing things. Even though you're following along on your own screen with tutorials, you're still consuming and you aren't thinking and actually doing something yourself. So tutorials, that's what we classify as passive learning. And you can probably imagine this, like if I watch someone just lift weights at the gym, would I build muscle? No, I wouldn't, because that's exactly what tutorials is going to do to you. You're going to watch tutorials, you're probably going to recognize a lot of the things, but you're not going to remember, understand any of the things because you're not actually coding yourself. You're just watching someone else code. And I promise you, I got stuck in this for years where I just constantly watched tutorials. I didn't learn anything. I couldn't do a single thing, couldn't make a single player movement script even. And I promise you, if you aren't going to like apply the active learning that I'm going to teach you at the end of the video, you're going to stay stuck just like I did, and you're not going to release your first game. So stay with me. Because tutorials and passive learning, it doesn't work in game development. Active learning in general is more effective, but it's especially important in game development, where there are a lot of factors why passive learning isn't going to work. But the most important ones are probably going to be that game development is all about solving problems, and problem solving, that's actually a skill in its own. It's not something that you can just remember, like you can remember Spanish grammar. You can just remember every problem that you're going to encounter in game development. That's not how it's going to work. Even though you might get the same problem again, there's not going to be like the same solution to the problem. And it's also going to be so many different fields. So for example, when you need to encounter like a problem with the art or your engine, whatever it might be, you can just remember all these different problems. You can just remember all the solutions that you're going to do, because game development, it's not one thing, it's going to be 100 different things. It's going to be art, game design, it's going to be level design, music, the game feel polish. It's going to be so many different things that you can't just remember. It's going to be so many different fields in one. As well as game development, it's going to be creative, and that's something that I'm not this hippie art guy, but I'm pretty sure you can just learn to be creative, or you might do to like some extent, but you can just watch every video on the world on how to be creative and then just make a creative and awesome game. And it's actually very interesting why we just keep coming back to tutorials, even though we internally know that it doesn't work. Like if I asked you before you watched this video if tutorials worked, you were probably saying no, because like you know internally that you don't remember anything from the videos themselves. But the reason why we still come back to tutorials is because they feel very easy. Like you don't have to think, so your brain is like relaxing, it's just laying back like this, and then it's thinking, wow, this is awesome, I'm learning while actually not doing anything, and I'm not using any like energy on actually learning. And your brain is loving it. It loves things that are easy and feels productive, because that's exactly what tutorials is, and that's why we keep coming back to it. Passive learning, including tutorials, gives us an illusion of progress. It's the same with watching or reading a guide on Google. It's the same with using AI. Every one of these is going to give you the illusion of competence, the illusion that you can do more things than you actually can, and the illusion that you're actually learning more than you actually are. Like there's an analogy that I heard the other day, and it's that your brain treats tutorials like dreams. Like it feels very real in the moment, but when you wake up, it's all gone. When you try to make your own game, the knowledge that you learn from the tutorials, it's all gone. You can probably imagine, like, if passive learning doesn't work to learn game development, well, what we have to do, there's two types. Well, we have to do the other thing, and that's going to be active learning. So to learn game development, we need to do active learning. And this is going to be overwhelmingly more effective for you. It's probably going to be like the only way that you're actually going to learn anything at all. I can say, at least for myself, that I learned 99%, not an exaggeration, like 99% of my skills just come from making my 3 games and the prototypes that I made, like in the middle of them. Like just to build projects, experiments, not like searching for the solution, not watching it at all, 99% of my knowledge probably come from building games, even though tutorials was like probably 40-50% of my total game development journey, because I was stuck in tutorial hell for so long. So what's going to happen once we start doing active learning? What's going to happen is that we transition from, when we're watching a tutorial, we just get recognition from something or about something, whilst when we're actually doing something, what we're gaining is not the recognition, but we're actually getting the understanding of the thing. And to actually use something practically in our own game, to actually use something in real life, we can't just have the recognition, we can't just recognize the thing, we actually need to understand it. So when we're actually building things, we're going to transition from just getting the recognition from something, which the tools gives you, to actually understanding the thing, be able to use it practically, and be able to use it in our own projects. Basically, it's going to like be very tight in our brain, because you know this feeling like you're watching a tutorial and you're actually following along just fine. You're like nodding your head, you're typing it in your own screen. You can probably like recognize that, okay, yeah, this line does this, and so on and so on. And that's because you can recognize all the things, because like the people on YouTube, the guy on YouTube explaining, is going to like say it, so it's like at the front of your brain, and you're going to remember it like in the short term. That's recognition. But you aren't going to understand it, you aren't going to like have it in your long-term memory, because to actually get something in your long-term memory, we need to build, we need to experiment, and we need to prototype. And that's exactly what Smartini is built upon. It's built upon this active learning that I just talked about, which is researched to be overwhelmingly more effective. And that's exactly why I built Smartini. It's to help developers in your exact position, because I was just like you a few years ago, to actually release and finish the first game. I'll walk you through everything that you need to know. You don't need like anything else than Smartini to actually finish and release your first game. That's everything you need. But with all that being said, now you have a very, very thorough understanding of learning and like how our brain works. So what we can cover now is what I want you to do today. And if you do this, like if you're not going to just watch the video and skip this part where you're actually going to do something, then you're going to get ahead of 99% of all the developers, because 99% of people watching this video, they just want some like entertainment, want to watch something while they eat. If you actually follow this like today or tomorrow, like preferably today, you're going to get ahead of 99% of other beginners. So congrats to you if you're actually going to follow this. As I said, how do we learn? Well, we learn by actually building games. And since you're a beginner, obviously you can't build games yet. So what are we going to do then? Well, we're still going to build games, but we're going to build small parts of a game. We're going to make small systems and small mechanics of a game, specifically mechanics, because they are very easy to make. So what I want you to do is first go inside of the game engine, and I just want you to write a few lines of code if you have that knowledge, or you can just remember something from the hours of tutorials that you have watched. Just something, just write it down, whatever it might be, just something that doesn't get any compiler errors. If you can't do anything, then I want you to go on Google. I want you to search for a specific system. A specific mechanic can be, for example, jumping. I use that example a lot. A simple jumping system, which is basically like a few lines of code. Just paste that into your own engine, and now you should have like a few lines of code in front of you. It should be like a very simple mechanic, whatever it might be. Now we're all on the same page. What I want everyone to do now is just to experiment, tweak, and break the things inside of those lines of code that you have inside of your IDE. And this is going to apply even if you had like some knowledge that you wrote in, or if you copied something from Google. Either way, I just wanted to experiment, tweak, and break things from those lines of code that you have inside. And what's going to happen then is that you're going to remember it so much better, and you're going to understand it much better. So you go from actually remembering just a few lines of code or just pasting it in, to actually understanding how they work, because you're going to experiment, you're going to tweak, and you're going to break things with these lines of code. So you're going to understand how they work. And then you can change a few parameters. So for example, if it was a jumping system, change how the force adding mode is, for example. It's very easy. It literally tells you in the ID what your options are, and everything is going to work. So just change parameters, change the like jump force, just test different things, and a few debug logs to see the values of different variables. Just do a lot of different things. Experiment as much as possible with the system before you repeat this and do it again. And once you've done this for like a few times, or it feels very natural for you to do so, what I want you to do is expand on it in the most natural way. So if you've done this like 2 or 3 times, then you can try to overlap these different systems and try to implement like some lines of code from this mechanic that you did and you broke and tweaked from that, so you understand it. Try to copy some lines of code, paste it into this other mechanic, and then try to just do something new. And if you can't do that and you want to learn something new that's very relevant and easy to make, just a few lines of code at a time, then you can go on Google and you can search for like the specific thing that you want to do. So if you, for example, had this jumping experiment and you tweaked and braked and changed the parameters around that, the next thing you can do is try to expand on it in the most natural way. And the most natural way to expand on like jumping is probably to add like a cooldown, for example, and it's going to be very easy. You just make a core routine and you just wait. Very simple. And then I have a lot of other videos on my channel as well of what you're going to do after you're done this. But for like a couple of weeks now in the future, I think this is a very good loop that you can be in to just get a very thorough understanding of the most important and essential parts of programming. So I hope this helped you a ton. Just a reminder, Smartini is the first link in the description, so you can click that if it sounded interesting and this video helped you. So thank you so much for watching. Preferably you can go subscribe or comment down below what your first experiment is going to be. Thank you for watching.